Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeff Saville, and I'm here with Katrina, who's going to be speaking a little bit about who she is and what she does for the dyslexic community. So, Katrina, I'll hand it over to you.
Hello, my name is Katrina Cochrane. I am the owner and director of Positive Dyslexia Ltd that I set up when I left the British Dyslexia Association 5 years ago. And I was head of education and policy at the British Dyslexia Association. And recently I've gone back into working for them part-time, and I do a lot of delivery of training. I write courses for the BDA, and I put on conferences for myself. I'm also an assessor and specialist teacher of dyslexia, and I have co-written a couple of books.
What was your route into the dyslexia field? Was it, did you notice that you or someone else had dyslexia at an early age, or what was your motive into spending a career in this field, and ultimately why did you choose it?
Well, I had a strange route in some ways, because I started off as an air stewardess, so a completely different route. But then when I had my children, I thought I'd better get a proper job and retrained as a teacher. And then just kept coming across so many children with dyslexia in the classes that I was teaching in. And in this country, in the United Kingdom, there's nothing mandatory in initial teacher training courses to train teachers to be able to identify dyslexic children or to be able to support them. There are some things in the initial teacher training courses which are you can choose to do, but nothing mandatory. So many teachers like myself go out into the classrooms, and we're not able to spot the child with dyslexia or know strategies to support them. And in my case, it was a case of the head of department just saying to me, well, just give them the coloured overlay. That was it. That was the only resource we had. And I thought, well, I've got to go back and do some more training. And I did a course which led to a diploma, postgraduate diploma in dyslexia and literacy. And at that point, then I went into work for the Dyslexia Institute, which is one of the main dyslexia charities in the UK at the time. And that was my route. And then along the way, I realised my own son was dyslexic, but that hadn't been my initial route into it. But many teachers that I know, many of my colleagues, they have gone into this profession because of their own children.
That's incredible. Well, that's what a happy coincidence that you started in that field, and then you were well equipped when you found out that your child had dyslexia.
Well, no, because he was actually 18 before. It was.
Oh, wow. So he was.
It really brought home to me the fact that these children with dyslexia have got really good coping strategies to avoid being found out often. And with my own son, I was always being called in about his behaviour and his not concentrating properly. And I didn't join up the dots. And I realised, like a lot of parents, they go along with what the teacher is saying. And if the teacher isn't saying, we think your child has got dyslexia, I was quite happy to sort of try and address his behaviour issues, but it was part of a wider picture.
What other ways are you wanting to make an impact on the world and how dyslexia people can thrive?
I think to me, it is all about meeting your potential. And often the bright children are the ones that are overlooked in class, because often they have got these strategies. They can often read, they can often spell, but they're not meeting their potential. And so they get overlooked. At universities, they're often picked up at university, and then they can start meeting their potential if they get to university. But lots of these children just fall by the wayside. And I spent a day in a youth offending institution last week, where I would say probably 90% of the young people at the institution were dyslexic. So, we know all the research shows that 40% of billionaires are dyslexic, but also huge numbers of offenders are dyslexic as well. So, we want these children to be identified early and allowed to meet their potential.
Well, that's awesome with everything you're doing to and for the dyslexic community and education. Now, speaking of education, Unless somebody hasn't gone outside, we have been living in a pandemic for well over a year now. And that's impacted the whole world, obviously. But have there been any specific impacts that you've seen with individuals who are neurodiverse or have dyslexia in terms of education in conjunction with the pandemic?
I've seen good and bad things. I do a lot of assessing of children and adults. I've seen children who haven't picked up a book in a year. But I've also seen some positives whereby some children have been allowed to go at their own pace, learn at their own pace. The pace in a class full of 40 children is often really quick, and teachers don't get time to do the overlearning, the reinforcement that a child with dyslexia needs. So being at home during lockdown has been positive for some children. They've been able to do the movement breaks they need. They've been able to work when they want to work. So those things have been quite positive, but it's integrating those good things and things that haven't been so good back in now in the new term to try and support these children as much as possible now, I think.
So my last question for you is, you have a conference coming up in November.
2 years ago, in November 2019, we had our first conference in Liverpool, and it was attended by Scanning Pens. And we had about 200 teachers come to Liverpool from all over the country, even from abroad. And it was a fantastic opportunity for everyone to come together, share best practice and listen to these fantastic speakers. Obviously, last year we couldn't have the conference, but we're really pleased that it's going to start again this November on the 11th and get together all those people who are just desperate to meet with each other and talk with each other again. And Scanning Pens are again going to be talking and demonstrating their products. And it's going to be a fantastic event, I hope.
Fantastic. Well, what advice, and just wrapping up here, what advice would you give to an individual who's coming to this conference? What would you say to them in order for them to get the most out of this experience? Whether it's, should they come seeking with answers with questions they have and whatnot? Like, what can they be expecting as they come?
Last time we had mainly classroom teachers, we had teaching assistants, we had some parents come along. And it was a great opportunity for lots of different people who hadn't had that training about dyslexia to talk and listen about dyslexia. We're also going to touch on dyscalculia, and that's quite a relatively new thing that people are starting to assess for dyscalculia more. And people are very interested in that also. So I think it's just come along, meet assessors, meet specialist teachers, meet classroom teachers, and come have a nice lunch and interact again. I think that's the main thing.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation.
Always happy to talk about dyslexia and trying to improve things for people.